colleague and daughter mother, Miss Anne Otwine. Today is the 19th day of November 2024. I welcome you all. Thank you for yielding to our call to attend this very important day in so many people's lives. My name is Richard Balikoa, the acting dean, and I will, in that regard, be the chairman of this session. We are beginning a few minutes from the time we announced for this defense, but we are lucky that all that are required to be here are here. Today is a defense for Miss Anne Otwine, who will talk to us. But before we go to her, I want to bring to the attention of all members in the room and the public that the room is fully constituted, and I will recognize members present. In the room, in addition to the candidate, we have panelists. Panelists are members who will examine, assess, and evaluate the candidate. And these include Dr. Francis Eboy. You're welcome, Dr. Eboy. Dr. Simon Chizito. You're welcome, Dr. Chizito. Dr. Robert Wandera Otiola. You're welcome, Doctor. We also have Dr. Benjamin Alipanga. Thank you for coming, Dr. Benjamin Alipanga. And then we have Dr. Linda Esther Nakalawa, that as of now is online, but he's joining us physical as well. So whoever was thinking we only have a panel of males, we are strategic enough. Thank you so much. In the room, we have the registry, the secretariat, and these are people that have been so important in the journey of Anne. This is led by our school registrar, Madam Bahia Kakungulu. All the paperwork and all that you have been seeing, she's the brain behind. We also have our dean's handler, the secretary, Madam Joyce Hastemere. Joyce, thank you so much for making this day happen. We have another very important person. In this case, we shall equate him to the father, among the fathers, the parents of Anne Otwine, and that is Dr. Leon Matagi. Dr. Matagi, thank you for obviously being present. We are honored to have you. We shall be getting so many members, but as of now, we have a brand new doctor, Naomi, just with us among the members of the public. Thank you for coming. We have other members of the public that we shall be introducing as we continue. But I have been informed that the candidate has not moved a single. You know, some of them use words in the book to say, I dedicate and all that. But I think your dedication is really visible, and by the mere fact that we have in the smart room, the family, I've been informed that her husband, who even happens to be the person that will lead the prayer sometime to come, is with us. You're welcome, sir. I've also been informed that her brother, she cannot move without a brother. Thank you so much for joining us. And then above all, the DNA, the daughter. Daughter, you're welcome. I know you will see mom smiling, but when the smile goes the other side, please don't join her. You only join her when the smile is straight, and that's what we are looking towards. This candidate has moved the journey with people that have been mentoring her, and these include Dr. Leon Matagi as the lead supervisor that has been working with Professor John Chiwewa, who is with us, but mainly virtual because he's currently in the United States of America. Then there are members that started off the journey as doctoral committee that included Dr. Julius Enon, who retired, but academics remain in line. Dr. Simon Nantam, I'm aware is online, but I think will be joining us. Associate Professor Julius Chikoma, he's with us online, but currently attending another meeting. And then Professor Joseph Onyu, may his soul rest peacefully. The Secretariat once again include Ms. Bahia Nabaloga Kakunguru, and is the Registrar of the School of Psychology, and Ms. Joyce Hatamere, Secretariat, Dean's Office. We would like to very, very much recognize the presence of our critical reader. I want to inform the House that nomenclature for this important person was changed by policy. So we are no longer calling you devil's advocate because you don't have so many devils behind you. You are no longer an opponent because we are sure you will not oppose anybody here, but instead you have critically given an eye to the work that Anne Otwine has moved with for the rest of these years. So our dear critical reader, we are blessed to have you, and you've been among the first people to arrive. At a very opportune moment, I will introduce who that person is for us. Now, we would like, without taking a lot of time, to invite the candidate. This candidate is first invited. She can begin by, in case she has anything to let us know before her presentation. If she does not have, she can straight away go to her presentation. And then when she starts her presentation by policy, Anne, we want to remind you that by now you have come to the top of your journey that started quite a number of years ago. And by the time you are talking to us oral and to the public, we have prepared you through all the processes. This is simply one of the processes where we are only confirming what has been done on paper. So we are rest assured that whatever you're coming with is just maybe what you consider better for us to hear regarding what you have already. We are aware that you went through the examination paperwork, you received the reports, and you excelled, and you had been prepared even prior to that. By the time you are talking to us, it's simply a matter of letting us know and interacting with you orally outside the paperwork that has always been. So when you talk to us, we shall give you a total of 30 minutes within which you should be able to say what you want to say to us. And then from there, you will be followed by the interaction. May I take this chance to invite you and you talk to the public about your work. May we welcome Anne Otwine. Thank you so much.
Very good morning. Yeah, a very good morning.
Before we have the prayer, then it will begin, in case she has something to tell us. But that should be within 3 minutes.
I'm grateful to God that this day has finally come. I would like to appreciate my supervisor who has walked me through this journey, and all the examiners and the secretariat in the School of Psychology who have been there for me. And I would like to thank the family that has come with me to give me the support that I need, and the virtual audience, and my critical reader, and the panelists. I'm very grateful that you've made it. So I am ready to present my dear Dean.
Thank you. May we use the advantage of the presence of the Reverend to give us a prayer. Thank you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father and God, we are before you this morning with thanksgiving in our hearts. We praise you for the long journey that Anne has worked together with her supervisors and all that have been very supportive. And Father, as she presents this morning, we pray that your guidance will be very clear, and we pray that whatever will happen here will bring glory to your name. We thank you and we honor you. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Yeah, by matter of fact, he's my husband.
You're invited to begin your presentation.
All right. My topic for my thesis is titled Career Guidance and Counseling, Occupational Information Knowledge and Career Self-Concept among Secondary School Students in Ankole Sub-Region, Southwestern Uganda, a Quasi-Experiment. That's my presentation outline. Why I was inspired to do this study is that most students after their secondary school, they are meaning well with their subject combinations and they look forward to joining university. But at the end of the day, some of these students get lost, especially when they finish, because they somehow end without the career passions of their dreams. So my main area of interrogation was, do they have enough career self-concept to help them come up with with careers that match their interests? My introduction, career self-concept, as you can hear it, it is a concept that brings out people's behavior, their personalities, and abilities they need to perform careers in future, that is the world of work. And according to Donald Super, career self-concept is a developmental task, and it spans through lifetime, from the time we are born until we die. However, for my study, I'm concentrating on this age group, which falls in career exploration. This is after a time when people have entered adolescence and they have a vague picture of who they want to be. However, during 15 to 24 years, these children or these young people, they try to focus on the actual careers they'll pursue in adulthood. And usually what they do here, the choices they'll make here will live with them till old age. Although studies have also established that some people, when they change environment or jobs, they may actually go back to some of these stages. And career self-concept in schools, it develops through interaction between classroom, learning environment, and personality. Among the services that schools provide is career guidance, and it is a media through which students really develop their career self-concept. And studies have showed that students who receive appropriate career guidance, they actually develop very appropriate self-concept. And some of the activities in schools that promote career self-concept through career guidance and counseling services include, I hope I've not lost it. Yeah, they include access to career information, access to counseling and psychosocial support, and exposure to work industry. And this was streamlined by a document that was provided by the Republic of Uganda in 2007. Career self-concept, as students go through career guidance, they are exposed to occupational information knowledge, which is a cognitive task. According to Clemens and Merson, working on Peterson's work of 1991, memories about career, when students are gathering information during the experiment stage, they gather a lot of information which is stored in the memory, and it is processed, and it is a cognitive task, which really later on influence their career decision making. Historical development, career guidance and counseling, which provides the medium for career self-concept, was well thought during the Dakar World Conference for Ministers of Education as a way of preparing to achieve the Millennium Development Goals of 2015. And in this conference, governments in Africa took up the responsibility to start up career guidance and counseling to facilitate students' career self-concept development. And in Uganda, it started, the department was formally operationalized in 2008. And it was charged with the responsibility of introduction of career guidance and counseling services in schools, building capacity of the staff, and distribution of counseling materials. So this was generic. However, career guidance is one of the aspects of guidance and counseling that schools pay attention to prepare students for the world of work. Despite the existence of career guidance and counseling services, students' career transition from school to work in Uganda has remained a challenge. And this is where I am asking whether career self-concept that is the subject of career guidance in schools is really effective. Because according to National Development Plan 3, it is stated that the transition is at 2.4, compared to 9% in Sub-Saharan Africa and 46% in Asia. So these have been some of the identified challenges that schools face: low funding, mismatch between vocational training and students' career choices, inadequate skills on the side of the career counselors and teachers. So unless we investigate the influence of career guidance and counseling, which promotes students' career self-concept, and then see how well students are equipped or since given opportunity to grow their career self-concept, we shall continue to struggle as a country to achieve the sustainable development goals. The purpose of the study is to examine students' career self-concept among schools, secondary school students in Ankole sub-region, Southwestern Uganda. And my objectives: one, I'll look at the relationship between career guidance and career self-concept. Also look at the predictive role of career guidance and counseling and occupational information knowledge on students' career self-concept. Also look at how occupational information knowledge moderates the relationship between career guidance and career self-concept. Then I'll look at the effect of career guidance sensitization on using NOIC. This is a tool which I adopted from National Career Development Agency, which talks about career self-concept of students. I used it to sensitize students so that we can manipulate the career self-concept. Then I also looked at gender differences. We cannot talk about students unless we look at the genders. And then I also went ahead and looked at the differences of all these variables in the 4 schools. Those are my hypotheses. I stated the null and the alternative. My justification is that these results could be used to inform policy, improve practice, and also increase sensitization about the need to improve students' career self-concept. My geographical location of the study was Southwestern Uganda, Ankole sub-region, particularly in Mbarara City. I chose Ankole sub-region because, according to the Bureau of Statistics, I've used of 2017 because that's the time I did the study. Ankole sub-region ranked the 3rd after Buganda and Busoga in student enrollment, so that these results can be replicated. By content scope, my IV, independent variable, is career guidance. Occupational information is the moderating variable. And then career self-concept is the dependent variable. And the time scope, I looked at the period when career guidance was familiarized in secondary schools in Uganda. That's my conceptual framework. When on the IV, I'm looking at awareness, utilization, and then existing services, which informs students' ability to perceive how well career guidance and services are being offered, operationalized in their schools. Then career self-concept, I'm looking at career choice making areas, school subject combinations, work values, abilities, and career interests. All these are constructs of career self-concept that I looked at. And then for occupation information knowledge, I looked at self-knowledge, education and occupation exploration, and then career planning. And these are the relationships that exist. My literature review was guided by the theoretical framework, guided by Donald Super, as I've already said. And these are the stages of career self-concept development, which are hierarchical. And it is believed that one cannot move from one stage to another unless they've experienced the initial stage. These are the, as I've already explained them in the conceptual framework, are the relationships that I'm looking at. My methodology, my research paradigm, I stand on the positivist paradigm, where data, numerical data is collected to justify a theory and also prove the hypothesis. And then I used quantitative approach of data collection. My research design is quasi-experimental, post-test no control group design. I used this design because I realized the population I was dealing with, as I'm going to explain, they were so fluid that I couldn't do the baseline and then go post-test without these students interacting to influence the data that I was going to correct. So I did quasi-post-experimental, where I gave treatment and post-test for treatment group, and then on post-tested the control group. Area of study was in Mbarara City among the public secondary schools, which I gave those codes. Population were A-level students in senior 6th class, and this class I selected it because they had gone through all career guidance levels from senior 1 and probably elementary, and they are at a stage of making final career choices to university. And this is where we really want to see whether their career self-concept was sufficient. My target population were 774 students distributed by schools. I used Craigie and Morgan sample size of 260, which matches with 774. However, after all was done, those who went through all the stages were 161 that completed the data with fully filled questionnaires. My sampling strategy and technique. For public secondary schools, I used the inclusion and exclusion criteria, where I focused on schools with A-level offering science and arts with established Department of Guidance and Counseling. And then for students, I looked at senior 6 students who had registered for UNEB examinations and were consenting to participate. Exclusion, anyone who did not, was not in A-level, senior 6, and the school which didn't have guidance and counseling department, and the senior 6 students who were not willing to consent, I excluded them. Sampling techniques for secondary schools, I use simple random sampling based on the inclusion and exclusion criteria. For students, I use proportional stratified sampling technique, as I've already showed up. Students were distributed by schools. And then when it came to the experimentation, for treatment and control groups, I used random sampling technique where I employed the golden ball technique to select schools for treatment and control randomly. The instruments, I used a structured questionnaire with 3 parts. The first part was career guidance and counseling questionnaire. This one, I developed it based on my experience and the interactions with the schools and what I was seeing happening. Then career decision-making system revised. This, I purchased it. It's a standard tool, and it tests students' readiness to make career decisions, and it basically assesses students' career self-concept. And then the National Occupational Information Coordination Committee competencies and indicators adopted from the National Career Development Agency. And these are the levels that I was testing. The quality assurance of the tools. For reliability, I pre-tested the tools. My cron batch alpha coefficient was set at 0.770. And when I pre-tested these tools, they were all above the set bar. And then for the validity, I used content validity, construct validity, where my tools were reviewed by experts, both from Makerere here in the School of Psychology, and then experts in the field, and some of the teachers involved in career guidance. And I triangulated the data to ascertain that the tools met the validity of the tools. My procedure at stage 1, I got clearance from all levels, from Makerere up to the education office and the head teachers and students by consenting. And the students who are below 18, I looked at them as emancipated candidates, so they gave their own consent. At experimentation, the treatment group, I gave an intervention based on NOIC, competencies and indicators, to sensitize students about occupational information knowledge they needed to make. And then I used Holland's personality subtypes model, which talks about personality. It talks about information that students need to know about school subjects, openings in careers, the risks, and the values they are likely to obtain by taking in that. Post-stage, I post-tested all the groups, and then I also did career self-concept assessment. Data management was done, and then those are the ethical considerations that I used. My results, demographic results, there were more males than females, and the average age was 18.5, with most students being 18 years and above. Hypothesis 1, career guidance and counseling have no significant positive relationship with career self-concept. My correlation showed a significant relationship between the two variables. Therefore, the hypothesis was not supported. The alternative was taken. Career guidance and counseling have significant relationship with career self-concept. Hypothesis 2, I did a regression whereby I compared results from career guidance. By this, I looked at the awareness. Those students, the 161 all confirmed that they are aware that schools were giving career guidance and counseling. And then I correlated it with the results from the post-test of all the students, plus the results from career self-concept, to see if career guidance and counseling and occupational information knowledge predicted career self-concept. Career guidance and counseling alone predicted career self-concept by approximately 4%, while occupational information alone by 1.4%. However, both combined, they had a predictive role of about 7%. So the hypothesis is supported that both occupational information knowledge and career guidance promote students' career self-concept. Therefore, the hypothesis was not supported, alternative was taken. Hypothesis 4, hypothesis 4. I looked at the association between career guidance and counseling and career self-concept, whether they are moderated by the intervention that I provided. This I did a moderation regression, and the interaction between career guidance and occupational information, career self-concept is the constant. There was no interaction, so it did not, the hypothesis is supported. Occupational information does not moderate the relationship between career guidance and counseling, meaning that students' career self-concept depends on many other factors other than occupational information knowledge. Hypothesis 4, here I compared the results from the control and the treatment group, and the results from treatment group indicated that occupational information knowledge after treatment, it increased. The mean was 2.3 compared to that of the control group. So meaning that if we continue sensitizing students using different sources of occupational knowledge, students can grow their career self-concept, and there was a significant p-value in this effect. The size effect was above 0.8 using Cohen's D size sample effect. Then for gender, there was no significant effect on career self-concept. So, whereas intervention does not support this hypothesis, gender does support the hypothesis 5. This should have been hypothesis 4 and should have been 4 and 5. Then for schools, this is hypothesis 6. I wanted to see in the schools that I studied, was there any difference between them or among them about the effectiveness of career guidance and counseling, occupational information, and then career self-concept? In the first set, school W had more mean compared, school Z, not this one. It had more mean compared to these other schools, meaning that there was a slight difference in the schools that participated in the study in the way they were operationalizing career guidance and counseling. Then occupational information knowledge, school W had more, displayed more effect than these other schools. While career self-concept, school Z again posted a bit more effect compared to these other schools. Although the effect was really negligible when it comes to Cohen's D size effect. So generally, we can say that schools are really struggling when it comes to operationalization of career guidance, sensitizing students, and then generally their self-concept. My discussion, results support the claim that students who receive right career counseling and guidance grow to have positive career self-concept. However, it's also established that in low and middle income countries, career guidance and counseling services are still challenged. And this is attributed to many factors. And these factors are not only limited to Uganda, but also other countries. In Uganda, particularly, these services are affected by structural and functional factors in schools. And one of the factors that is mentioned by Nsubuga and Kronos is that schools cannot differentiate or find it hard to differentiate between guidance and counseling and career guidance and counseling. So most schools get lost in guidance and counseling, and students end up not getting proper career guidance. Occupational information knowledge, much as it did not influence the relationship, we cannot ignore it because it really plays a significant role in students' career, information cognitive processing for them to make appropriate career choices. For our prediction, we can say that since if those two are combined, they can make a difference and make students grow very good career self-concept in life. Additionally, in Uganda, there is a study which I wrote in 2023. Although students' occupational information knowledge is seen to be significant among the groups, especially those who got treatment, when I analyze the kind of occupational knowledge that is given to students, it has nothing to do with the SDGs. Then, again, students, especially girls, find it hard to transit from from lower levels to upper levels. Although we are seeing more girls graduate in school, it's because some parents have chosen to take their girls to school, but the majority of girls don't. They find it hard to transit because of early pregnancy and early marriages and many other factors. We can also not neglect gender differences because we are still affected by cultural factors. So you find that much as girls are opting for science-related subjects, we still find that when it comes to employment, they are still discriminated. So we may have many more pursuing career in science, as government policy says, but when they finish school, you'll find that still girls will shy away from their careers, and you wonder where their career self-concept was really well developed. In conclusion, career self-concept in my study is predicted by strong career guidance and counseling services and occupational information knowledge. So schools, if they can really pay much attention, we may see more students make formal career guidance, career self-concept based career choices, which may stand the test of time. However, as we have seen, the schools which I picked on, it is indicative that students are really struggling. And most of the factors may be internal to the system, which cripples the students' progress. My recommendations is that we need to pay attention as a nation to students' career self-concept development, given that it is a career developmental stage which they need to go through for them to build strong career base even when they are adults. In schools, we need to create conducive environments, both in school and outside, so that there is collaboration between all stakeholders, because as education we teach, but employers have to take our products, and usually they want to see whether students are intentional on their career choices. So we need to do a lot here. Then the curriculum, I shouldn't say review because it is under review, but when you look at the curriculum that is being reviewed, you realize that they are very quiet on career guidance and counseling. They will generally say guidance and counseling, but we need to go back and make people understand that career counseling is really distinct, although it is also supported by these other areas of guidance, if we are to achieve the SDGs by 2030. My contributions, my literature about these three variables has been documented. And then, according to theory and practice, I can confirm that our students in our secondary schools fit in the exploration stage of career self-concept, so they need to be supported to grow their career self-concept. Policy review, the evidence that I've gathered is enough to support any capacity building that we need, from the Ministry of Education down to the grassroots and then to the employers about prioritizing students' career self-concept. And then for research, as academicians, we need to focus on models that can promote career self-concept among students in low and middle income countries. My limitations is that the Quasi-Experiment, I know I want to recognize that it is the weakest of all experimental designs, but the nature of the population I was dealing with, it was the ideal, since it was, it couldn't be easy to control the people involved. Again, the standard tools which I used, they were adopted from the Western world. Although I tested them, they may have not 100% captured the true characteristics of the participants. There was high attrition rate of the study participants due to uncontrolled study environment. However, I tried to minimize this by recruiting a team of research assistants who helped in supporting in the data collection so that we don't lose all. Those are my references. And then these are my publications so far. There are 3 which are out, and then 1 is in print. However, it has been accepted. And then I would like to acknowledge my supervisors, then Professor, may his soul rest in peace, my doctoral committee, the schools and students where I carried my study, my research assistants. I work with Bishop Stewart University, which supported me in time and finances and moral support, and then my family. I thank you.
Thank you so much. And can we add a hand clap? Thank you. Thank you for talking to us about your study. And without much ado, I would like to invite the person who brought the external eye to your work, and then you have the introduction. The person is Associate Professor Dennis Atibuni. Professor Atibuni is an Associate Professor of Educational Psychology in the Department of Education, the Faculty of Science and Education, Visitima University, and he is based at the Nagongera campus. Professor Atibuni is a fellow of Uganda National Academy of Sciences. He's a research associate at Ali Mazrui Center for Higher Education Studies, University of Johannesburg. He has had a series of responsibility in the academia and at work. One as a former chair, Higher Degrees Committee, former head of department, education department, a former focal point of quality assurance, former member of the discipline and academic committee. So I think he's going to trace the academic disciplinary in our work. And he's a very excited person when it comes to postgraduate research, training, and engagement. Professor Tibuni, this is not the first time he's here to give an eye to the work that students from the School of Psychology of Makerere University are doing. It was like almost the same day, 22nd of November last year, when he was here interacting with our now Dr. Elizabeth. So we are glad to have you again, Professor. And as he is about to come, I would like to appreciate our colleagues that are with us. From the School of Psychology, Dr. Rachel Nwagawa is attending this presentation. Dr. Kamis Musanji is with us. Dr. Isaac Kizativasima from the School of Liberal Arts is with us also. And we have over 100 attendees to this public defense. So these are online, in addition to these that are here virtually. And I want to assure you, Anne, that these are from the entire East Africa and the rest of the regions. That means they're interested in this work. May I invite Professor Atibun to come and interact with the student. Professor, as you come, we shall leave it as a freelance, but as you had initially requested me, we know the interaction may range between the 30 minutes and an hour, and I think we shall have received good feedback from you. Professor, may you take up the podium. May I invite you here so that the rest of the audience can be part of you. Thank you so much. May we welcome Professor Atibun.
Thank you, Chair, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It was a pleasure getting engaged with our mother, Makerere University, once again, in the capacity of now baptized as a critical reader, supposed to be devil's advocate. And it is a great honor coming from the east to the west. For those who believe in the Bible, the wise came from the east to the west because the wiser was in the west. So came to see the wiser in the west. So I'm happy to be here where the wiser are. And it was again a pleasure interacting with the career guidance and counseling, occupational information knowledge and career self-concept, a discipline that I'm very passionate about, and for which reason I became a member of the Uganda Counselling Association to interact with our young people in this area particularly. And so, Anne, you've done us proud, and I want to thank you for putting up this spirited fight, starting from the end with so many publications to it already, and the world is really reading a lot about it. And from your presentation, I must acknowledge that surely this has been work in progress. And between the time you submitted the work for external examination and today, I see there is a marked difference between that work and this work, and probably between that Anne and this Anne, who, by God's grace, could become titled. And so I want to request you to maintain that calm, maintain that confidence, maintain that cool as we interact in the Chair has given me only 1 hour, 60 minutes, and I've already spent some of it talking the non-essentials, which are also essential. And so I will request that I don't know whether she should be standing or sitting. I think you can sit. You have already stood enough. And let me stand on your behalf now. And let's start straight away. Just tell us some of the improvements you made to the work in that period. From that time you submitted it for external examination to date. What improvements have you made which are not reflected in the book so that you're exonerated?
Thank you so much, Professor. Most of the work is captured, but the improvements I've made, I have added my motivation.
Correct.
I have adjusted the introduction, added the historical view, although it was there, but it was scattered in the book.
Correct. Thank you for bringing out that word, scattered.
Yes. I added the scope, time scope.
Correct.
I did some bit of adjustment in the methodology.
Yes.
Yes. So I know.
And you have added the contribution.
Yes, I've added the contribution and adjusted the conclusion and the recommendations so that they align with the objectives of the study.
Okay.
Yes. And I added the publication, which is in print because it was released like a month ago.
Excellent. Okay, so in your attempts to improve the background of the study, you said you now aligned the historical perspective. What other perspectives are supposed to be in the background?
I'm supposed to have a conceptual perspective, and I talked about my concepts. I'm supposed to have the context, and I talked about the challenges that students are experiencing transiting from one level to another. And then, yes, and then the problem statement, which is already there in the book.
Okay, I asked you about the background. Thank you for talking about the problem statement. We shall talk about it a little later now. There is one other area which you refused to spell out, and which I think going forward you will need to spell out. That is the theoretical perspective.
Oh, yeah, true.
The theoretical perspective, it's missing in that background. And as the background stands, you used the word scattered. It didn't come from me, but by the power of the Holy Spirit, because you come from a reverence house, you have brought the word. It is really scattered. And so we expect that you should do the knitting of these perspectives. There's no preferred order in which they should rhyme, but personally, I prefer you give me the concept. What are we going to talk about? Where did it start? Along a certain time marker, whether we are going to talk about the industrial revolutions or colonialism, just some time marker. That is the historical perspective, and then you tell us what is on the ground now, the context, and then eventually, how do you link these together? Should be properly knit. Otherwise, true, thank you, it is really scattered.
Thank you.
Then you have the problem statement. What is the difference between a problem statement and a statement of the problem?
problem statement, you state the problem as it is. And then statement of the problem, I should think that they are the same, but spelled the other way around.
Okay, this speaks to Otwine Ann and Ann Otwine. Who should I cite there? No, just go to that first slide. Yeah, Otwine Ann and Ann Otwine. If you are to be cited, you should be cited as who according to that?
Should be cited as Otwine Ann.
According to which publication style?
Oh, according to APA, it should be Ann Otwine.
Okay, that is actually the difference between the problem statement and the statement of the problem. The problem statement, like you rightly defined it, brings out that missing gap and the negative consequences within the statement of the problem. So you should be having the statement of the problem, but within the statement of the problem, there should be a problem statement.
All right.
Yeah, so I am glad aspects of the statement of the problem are there, but unfortunately, you go beyond to give other areas. You talk about uptake, you talk about sensitization, you talk about challenges, quality education, lifelong learning, and these seem to obliterate the conciseness of the statement of the problem. So eventually, the problem gets lost because of opening it wide to so many other issues, which actually you do not investigate in the study. But unfortunately, also issues which you investigate in the study are not reflected in the statement of the problem and are not properly problematized. For instance, the slide after the statement of the problem here takes us to examine objective number 5, for instance. You didn't bring out gender as a problem in the statement of the problem. Now it becomes something for investigation.
All right.
So whatever appears in the objectives should have had a root in the statement of the problem, please. Okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah. And when you go systematically to the purpose of your study, the one I was given to read was not clear. I'm happy today it is clearer.
It's among the developments I've made.
There are other developments you've made.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So please make further developments to ensure that number one, it captures the for what. Because here it is only the what which has been brought in the purpose of the study. The for what is not captured here. Then for who is also not captured. So that those are two areas which you should factor into the purpose of your study. And that now determines everything else to do with the objectives. Okay, now we come to the heart. I don't know whether it is the heart or the soul now. The objectives of the study. And I'm going to make you jump here and there. Okay? You, for career guidance and counseling, developed your own instrument, your own questionnaire, or rather your own scale. Right?
Yes, please.
What steps did you take in that process of developing the Ann version of the career guidance scale?
So,
career guidance and counseling scale, I think. Yes.
yes, based on my literature, on the literature, existing literature, and I looked at the literature regarding career guidance and counseling in schools. I looked at literature regarding occupational information knowledge. And then the main area which I was very interested in, career self-concept, I found that there was a gap. So I looked at those sets of literature, and then I set about 3 areas. One, I asked whether students were really aware about guidance and counseling services in their schools. So I wanted to test if they really had that awareness or they think it is anything flat. And also looked at whether they are utilizing it. And I also looked at the kind of services that are offered as guidance and counseling if students were really aware. And then I also looked at the kind of information that they are given. So when I looked at that literature and I found that there were gaps, then I constituted them into an instrument, and my intention was to really pick students' voices, because most of the studies are on teachers, on head teachers and other stakeholders, but rarely do we pick on students. So that's how I was motivated. And after putting them together, I pre-tested the tool to see its reliability and validity.
Exactly, that's what I wanted. What is there in that pre-testing, the pilot study? What happened?
So I developed the tool and I first pre-tested it in 2 secondary schools. But then the validity was low, the reliability was low, and the validity wasn't coming out well. Then I revised them and then took them to one other school with A level, and then I pre-tested it on a group of 20 students.
You see, the challenge here is I wanted to hear about how you determined the validity and reliability. And this will be away from the content validity index. And
yes.
Particularly the validity, because before you set out to use a tool, it must be valid.
Yes.
Then as you use the tool, it must be reliable. Before you set out to use a tool, it must be valid. But as you use it, it must be reliable. So yes. I wanted to hear from you what statistical operations were undertaken in order to ensure this tool is valid before you use it and reliable as you use it.
So I did item analysis. I got the responses from the few students, and then I put them in Excel to see their statistical power. And those items which had higher statistical power were picked on, and those which were not were dropped, so that I remained with the true items.
I wish this could be reflected in the book.
I will.
I pray this gets reflected in the book, because what we see mainly is people just sit down and concoct a few items and say, this is now my questionnaire. We go in the field and come back and we just start analyzing without fact analysis. The confirmatory, the principal components analysis, and so on. Those we don't usually do. And for a study as yours, really we need to do that fact analysis.
All right.
And I will prove to you that something went wrong. Can you take us to the conceptual framework? Yeah, thank you. That independent variable, career guidance and counseling, as a variable and as a concept at the same time. You give us dimensions of awareness and utilization, then existing services, and then sources of services. Can you distinguish between these dimensions? Are they really different, and to what extent?
Yes, these variables are different, As I've already said,
dimensions for that variable, IV.
the dimensions are not different. But they break down of what I mean when I talk about career guidance and counseling. So when we go to, in my study, when you go to schools will say, yes, we have guidance and counseling, but can the students tell that these actually services are there? So as a way of qualifying it quantitatively, students who could confirm that these were in existence, then that proved that their awareness was high.
And there's a commandment which says, don't tell lies. Let us stick to differentiating between awareness, existence, and sources. How different are these?
Okay. Sorry. The difference is these are services in schools, and this is for students. So I know in my work, you don't see this. And this was published independently because most of this was a bit qualitative and it didn't fit well in the quantitative study. So I published them independently, and then for quantitative study, I maintained.
Thank you. It is now a confession box. Yeah, actually that should be the procedure. Do something qualitative, it generates a lot of information and you take it out there, you develop a tool, a quantitative tool now, which you reduce through principal components analysis and then other factor analysis and so on. But that was not done. And so it resulted in us duplicating the same dimension, just in different words. You have just the career guidance and counseling, but of course, students' awareness and the existence of the services are also tapped through the awareness, and the sources of the career guidance and counseling are in the existence of the services. So it all adds up to one thing. So there is a challenge there. I hope you will, going forward, try to ensure that this is settled.
All right, Professor.
What do you hope to do after here to settle it?
I hope to look at the values that I gathered around here and consider them as part of awareness.
That's rather too late, but I'm sure the examiners and my own report will give you direction on what probably you could do. But doing that now would be rather too late where you have reached. But that's okay. Thank you for acknowledging that academic humility is partly what we look for in enrolling colleagues into the academy. Thank you for that. I'm happy today you talked about a theoretical framework, which I was very unlucky not to find in your work. Could you briefly talk about the purpose of a theoretical framework in your work?
Theoretical framework gives a foundation to my work, so that the problem that I was or am examining has roots from this theory, and I am testing to see whether this theory really works.
When is it a framework and when is it just a theoretical underpinning?
Theoretical underpinning goes back to the to the philosophical stance, but the framework is what guides me.
The theoretical framework should be a collection of theory. And what you should be telling us here, given the purpose of the PhD as making a contribution in the lives of those you intend to affect, whether positively or negative, then you employ the theory of change. There should be an input, a throughput, and an output as you develop your theoretical framework. And the theory or theories therein should help you move. For instance, the IV will be an input, the MV will be within the throughput, or it will still be an input, and then the link between them will be explained using one theory. Then between the MV, IV, and the DV, probably there's another theory. And I felt, given the nature of your work, you needed more than one theory. But given the cocktail of theory in the report here, which I think can benefit that intended transition of our students from not knowing or not having occupational information knowledge and not having sufficient career guidance and counseling to having career self-concept very well developed. So there should be that transition. Input, throughput, and output, and it's not there, it's missing in the book.
Thank you.
And now, in your scope, you acknowledge that there are areas of the scope which were missing, and now you have improved it. And the temporal scope, 2008, because this is an experimental study, we expect the temporal scope to be that period of time when you engaged with the participants actively. That will be your temporal scope. But if you were doing something historical from the year 2008 up to last year, then we will take it from 2008 fine. But here, this was something experimental. So I expected your temporal scope to be that period of time when you actively.
So, Professor, I think that one also, as the book goes through changes, some information is lost, but the temporal scope, as you're talking about, I engaged students for a period of 3 months.
And that will be the time, the
Yes.
temporal scope, yes.
Yeah, so it was lost somehow, as you're right.
So what you've put here is also different.
All right.
And the content scope, we expect it to go deeper and give us the anchors of measurements, which are missing, okay? They are not in your book. And the operational definitions are missing in the book. And the geographical scope now addresses your participants. You intended that these participants should remain anonymous. There should be confidentiality. But the way you described, I could see Mary Hill High School, I could see Mbarra High School, I could see Ntare School, I could see Mbarra Secondary School.
Maybe because you have lived.
No, just the description alone can tell you that these are the schools being talked about.
So I'll remove the details.
The details actually address the anonymity and confidentiality that is intended.
All right.
Yeah, I'm happy you acknowledge that. Huh? Mm-hmm. Yes, so, and as for the significance, you tell us the benefits, but you are silent on benefits and particularly the how bit of the benefits. You are a bit silent on the how. Yeah, so you will do a bit of revision in that. Okay, so let us go to your hypothesis. I said we shall be jumping back and forth. The question I will raise on hypothesis 1 is, what exactly did you measure in career guidance and counseling? But we have debated on this, that what we thought we were measuring became amorphous because of having one dimension duplicated. You will have to go and revise it. But before you go that way, there are other suggestions I'm sure you are going to be subjected to and you could take.
All right.
Then the second one, is that where you have the age also intruded? No, it's in the third one, sorry.
Age is in number.
The third hypothesis. Can you take us to the results of the third hypothesis? No, I think it's the fourth one. The fourth one. Sorry.
Age is in number 1. It's not, it's just the.
No, you take us to the fourth, the next one. Yes.
Oh.
This is the main, what I would call your PhD objective. The moderation. This is the heart of your study. And when someone reads from the beginning to the end, you are talking about this moderation. But in the model, you now intrude age and sex. Do you know the effect of intruding those variables there? Can you tell us?
They interfere with the.
Thank you. The word is interfere.
Yeah, with
Oh my God. So why did you allow this interference?
I think this was picked in the analysis.
Why?
I need to remove it, Professor.
So thank you. Those two negatively and, by the way, grossly interfere with the moderation.
I'll remove it, Professor.
All right. So you never know. Probably you will have had a significant moderation, but the interference from age and sex probably caused you problems. So that means going back to do the analysis without those two variables.
It is where, Professor.
And then you go to the next. When you hear the word effect and the word difference, what difference do you get statistically?
So my difference is here determined by the mean. However, we wanted to see within these differences, what was the effect size between the groups based on their mean. So this is where I use the Cohen's d sample size effect.
And let's take issues together on this.
Yes, please.
You select 260 participants. You divide them according to schools and not equal numbers in the schools, okay? Okay? You in one writing you say proportional, in another one you say proportionate. I don't know which the right word.
Proportional.
Should it be proportional random sampling or proportionate random sampling?
That was proportionate.
Thank you. So it's proportionate. Okay, so you divide the numbers proportionately according to schools, and the numbers are not equal. And now you come and test a difference using t-test. Anne, is that what it's supposed to be? Should we test a difference using what will I call it? Should we use t-test to test the difference where the numbers are not equivalent? Or we should be using a non-parametric equivalent? And in that case, what will be the non-parametric equivalent?
chi-square.
Oh no. There are two groups you are testing, so
Uh,
that will be a Manhattan U, okay?
okay.
That will be a Manhattan U. If you are testing between what you'll call the treatment and the control groups. But let's again take issue with that. You go to our because this work is owned at this level, including the critical reader, whatever comes out after here, all of us are party to it. So go to our methodology and particularly focus on the design. The design. Quasi-experimental post-test, no control group design. No control, mark the word, no control group. Okay, let's go back to the results. Where we have been. So what do we see?
We have a control group.
So, so the design says no control group. And now the result says control group. Which one should we take?
I know Quasi has a time series, it has Solomon test for differences, but why I avoided the time series and Solomon is because I didn't do a pre, then test and post-test. So the way I wrote no control should be not no control, but should be test and control group design.
Now, what did you control? If there is to be a control.
I controlled the sensitization where
But you acknowledge in the writing that there was fluidity. You acknowledge that the populations could easily mix.
yes, but that's why I selected the two schools independent, and then the two schools which were for treatment, which were also independent. So there was nothing for two schools to mix, but what I meant was within the school itself, where it was likely that the students who received treatment would mix with a very group which did not qualify to take part in the experiment.
Well, that is not possible. That there will be no information flow from, because you already described the school such that they are known, there will be no information flow from Tare to Mbara High, to Mary Hill, to Mbara Secondary. That could not be avoided. And so there was no control. Agreed or not?
I should say there was, because the schools that I did not engage in treatment, and then I did test their occupational information knowledge without sensitization, is what I used to measure the difference with those that received the sensitization on the same post-test.
You have now brought the next problem I wanted us to go to. But before we go there, let us acknowledge that there was mixing, there was flow, there was contamination in the proper word. Okay, so there was a very loose control, if any. That implies, yes, we could have used another design, like a continuous quality improvement design. But the challenge is this, and it speaks also to how you tested your hypothesis, previous one. You go back. there. You see, you have students, you have all of them, the 161 that are in the study. You have given them the career guidance counseling instrument, okay, at the beginning.
No. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Thank
Sorry.
you. You see, I'm called a critical reader. So you gave all of them. Now we are forgetting about the attrition because of those reasons. Let's focus on the 161. At the end of the day, these include those you have put in your what we will call a pseudo control group and a pseudo experimental group, right?
Yes, friends.
And you give a treatment to those in the experimental group, okay? Which treatment is now the OIC, Occupational Information Knowledge,
Yes, please.
okay? And you also unfairly come to measure this occupational information knowledge in those you did not subject to the treatment. That is okay because you wanted now the effect of providing this.
Yes, please.
But remember, there is a group that you are not subjecting to this.
Yes, please.
True? And at the end of the day, you give them the career self-concept questionnaire, right? And there is a mix of two groups. There is that group which has not gone through the test. There is this other group that has gone through the test. I mean the experiment, okay? And now you combine all of them in a moderation. Is that proper?
It's not proper. However, that's why in my next hypothesis, I look at this career self-concept by the groups that received the treatment and those that did not.
But of course,
receive
that
the
does not
treatment.
solve the problem of the other hypothesis. You know that? So let us acknowledge that we are combining two groups which should not be combined when you are running a moderation. Because the other group has not been subjected to the treatment and so should not be part of the moderation. What you want to do in a moderation is to see the effect of the treatment, and so the moderation only applies to that group which has gone through the treatment.
All right, Professor.
Okay. So that implies there is going to be an overhaul there. Agreed?
Yes, Professor.
Accepted?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Then we come to this table. You are comparing or getting differences between
the schools.
Schools, thank you. And you're using t-test. Is that proper? One school has 67 students, another one has 19 students, and you are comparing these numbers, you see?
I think I have to use group means.
Yes, even when you use group means, you don't use parametric tests to compare the group means. You now use non-parametric equivalents of the parametric tests. And in this case, because there are 4 groups, then that will be a Kruskal-Wallis test, okay? That will be a Kruskal-Wallis test to compare the group means to get the differences. Amen?
Thank you, Professor.
You should say amen. You're not...
I say thank you, Professor.
Okay. So these are key things which imply, of course, once the results are wrong, then everything else that follows is wrong. Okay? Once we have done the wrong thing here, then what follows is Galatians 6:7 says you reap what you sow. So when we plant wrong here, then the discussions, conclusions, and recommendations and everything else that follows is going to collapse. Okay? Yeah, so I hope you've taken note of that. Let's go to the next, the discussions. in the discussions, you do copy, paste. You copy literature from the review of related literature to the discussion. And I suspect you use Quillbot or some other tool to edit it so that it suits. But we can see that this is the same paragraph which was in either in chapter 1 or in chapter 2, which has been, let me use the bad word, shoplifted and planted in the discussion section and only romanced a little bit. I think.
Where I mentioned that the results support the claim that students receive. So I merge my results with what has already been said. And I also bring out some of the gaps, but of course, based on the literature that is existing, so that it supports the results that I have or does not support the results that I have.
Okay, what we do going forward? Let's not simply lift and plant, okay?
All right.
Let's do a critical synthesis of the literature now to bring out the implications as you have already started bringing them out for policy and practice, and the theory needs to be reflected in. By the way, both the interpretation of the results and the discussion of the results require the theory or the theories which you draw from your theoretical framework. Unfortunately, the theory only remains mentioned in the review of related literature and does not appear again in the copy of the book that I read, does not appear again in the interpretation of the results, and does not appear again in situating the findings to the context and to policy and to practice. So the question will be, what is the use of a theory in a study if it does not help in interpreting the results and in discussing them? So I think that will be done going forward. And so even the conclusions should be made objective by objective. You alluded to the fact that you have already refined that. Thank you very much. I wish I had opportunity to read it again. Of course, I'll read again. And the recommendations need to be based on the findings. As it stands in the copy of the book that I read, the recommendations come from your mind. They are not based on your findings. So that's something you need to work on. And the limitations. Limitation number 1 is a limitation of the study. That's correct. Limitation number 2 is your personal challenge. Now I think you have...
like I told you, I revised.
You've revised. Thank you. And number 3 was actually a delimitation rather than a limitation in the copy of the book that I read. So thank you for the overhaul. And you don't have areas for further study in your work. I don't know whether they are there now in the improved version.
I recommend that when we are reviewing the curriculum,
that is a recommendation,
yes,
but we need an area for further study. So the two are not the same. You will have recommendations, you will have areas for further study. The areas for further study should be drawn from the limitations of your study. Yeah, so
I think I lost it here, but I was talking of the models that address the career self-concept of students aimed at achieving the SDGs.
Okay. So now 2 last things, because my 1 hour is getting fast spent. I think I have about 10 or so minutes. About 10 or so minutes, but I think it's slightly more. Now, I'm not being political to buy more time. Yeah. Your review of related literature, you need to do some work on it, because we expect to see conceptual review. what happens is review of related literature captures the conceptual review, the theoretical review, the empirical review, and in some cases the methodological review. And in your case, actually, a methodological review will be apt. But you may be excused, but you need these other three. The conceptual review, which brings out the various definitions or boundary settings that various authors or scholars have given before, and you also derive from there your own operational definitions, which you now put in the conceptual perspective of the background, and you expand in the the content scope of the study. Then the theoretical review should bring out all possible theories that could be used to explain the links and the reasons for their choice or non-choice to explain those links. And that is not there in your work. You only have one theory, Super's model. That's the only theory you have. And it's not in the background. It only appears in the review of related literature. It is not used in explaining or interpreting the results. It's not again used in the discussions. So something needs to be done. But as I said, I'm sure you'll get all those from the reports that you are getting. And then the empirical reviews will bring out the gaps. And as we stand now, you do not make the authors quarrel among themselves. You do not make them agree among themselves. You do not synthesize to suit your context. So something better and deeper needs to be done. And that will do for the review of related literature. And I still emphasize for the results, the interpretations need to capture. You have only given the scientist's version or what is good for the scientist. For Professor Leon, he will understand. What about someone in another discipline or someone in the village? The other interpretation does not come out. So you need to go further to give us the implication of your findings for the lay reader. In the Church of Uganda, we have lay readers. So there should be a version for the lay reader, not just the technical reader. Okay?
Thank you, Professor.
And because the results have those issues, my suggestion would be that since you have made significant publications, 4 to that tune, I don't know what our policies of Mother Makerere say. I would rather, instead of going back to the drawing board to do that analysis and filtering and doing this, why don't you populate these into a series of objectives as they appear according to complexity and one building to another. And that's actually how they appear. You see, this publication leads to this, leads to that. There is coherence. Why don't you simply populate them into a dissertation by publication format rather than going to the drawing board, and you're not going to correct some of those mistakes. You see? That will be my take of it. But otherwise, using the water word technique as a psychologist, you know, you need positives as well, which you already have, and everybody has already told you. That's why you are here. Otherwise, if it was largely negatives, you would not be here defending. It's more positive. That's why you are here. So these negatives should be what you are looking for. Those gray areas which need to be made better. And your issues with APA, your issues with the cross-referencing, because there are appendices which don't appear in the body of the work and so on. I think those will be sorted. But I have to, Chair, request that you let me use the original title that I'm supposed to have had if other baptisms were not given, the devil's advocate. And I ask a few devilish questions, if you grant it. Thank you very much, Chair. Then I'm protected to ask some devilish questions here. Please take them in good faith. And,
Yes,
okay?
please. Yes, Professor.
Number one, any surprises you got in the study?
Yes, I did. And my surprise came from the area which you have critically asked, the area of occupational information knowledge. Surprisingly, the students who took treatment, as I took them through the 3 areas, occupational information knowledge, critically looking at their self-awareness, the effect of their development on their concept of the careers, the effect of interpersonal relationship, the other section of education and occupation exploration, looking at how they are connecting their current classroom experience to their to the kind of career dreams they have. That group eventually, the high stakes of agree, disagree, and neutral, it came down compared to those who did not
And
receive.
that's the reason you should not mix them in the moderation.
Right.
Amen? Thank you. Then there are also other surprises. We may not exhaust them. But next question, of what value do you think this work is?
This work brings out the reality of students' experience with career guidance which they experience in schools, because when you visit schools and look at the existing literature, they will tell you they have functional career guidance.
Thank
and
you.
counseling
That was actually leading
programs.
you to the contributions which are
Yeah.
largely missing in the book, but I'm happy now they are coming in, okay?
Yeah,
They are going
you.
to be there, right?
Thank you.
You promise?
I will.
Okay. Then this other one is really devilish. How different is your work currently from a master's dissertation?
If it was a master's dissertation, I wouldn't be seated here with all the great eyes on me.
Okay.
So
Now, thank you for that precise answer. Where you are seated defines where it belongs. Now, the philosophy of it was missing in the copy that I read, but I'm happy now. I mean, the philosophy that you have cast, the pragmatic philosophy, it lacks the axiological, epistemological, and ontological positionings within it. So I was imagining, so are we still not at master's level? If the philosophy is missing and we want to award a doctorate of philosophy.
I think it is there, but it's not so explicit. So I'll make it explicit.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for conceding that now we are transiting from master's to PhD. Thank you for that. By the way, what is your thesis statement?
Students' career self-concept is shaped by career guidance and counseling and occupational information knowledge exposed to them while they are at school.
Okay, you can draw it from your problem statement, which is a bit hazy, and you can refine it better. That can be done from here henceforth. I saw last year you published some work on sex workers. And I want to believe this was because this was also informed by this work on career and probably sex working as a career. And I wanted to find out in this last devilish question, what link exists between the other work you published on the career of sex working and career guidance and counseling, then career self-concept, and then occupational information knowledge as a sex worker.
Professor, aren't you taking me away from where we are? But that's one of the, actually, the effects of our career self-concept, because these people are, they have gone through school, but they end up going to where they feel they can get more money, which is a characteristic of some of the students who have failed to conceptualize their career self-concept, that they may end up taking on jobs which are not necessarily in their line of interest, just to survive. So that's why I'm saying that we really need to take it back to schools so that we integrate we prioritize career self-concept as a product of the education that we are giving to our students through career guidance and counseling.
Can this come in your negative consequences of the problem statement within the statement of the problem? Because you are missing out something very critical in your statement of the problem.
Yeah, the consequences of poor career choices.
Yes.
I will, Professor.
Yes, and that's why, that was the motivation of this devilish question. It was not to find out whether you're a sex worker. And I want to appreciate that with all due respect, you have done your best, but you have seen the flaws in the analysis. Okay?
Yes, so, Professor.
Yeah, and you have acknowledged that there's need to change in those areas. But that aside, what else would you wish to change in this work if given the opportunity to go back and change?
It's about improving the work. I need to improve the work.
In your methodology, in your population, in your theorization, in your philosophical underpinning, is there something that you want to change? You think about it. My time is up because I started at 18 minutes to the other time, and I'm left with only 3 minutes, but I don't have to take all of them.
Yeah,
There's
but as I have pointed out the areas which I have taken note, then I have to go and make the work better.
I just tested your work before coming here, and I found, minus the references and the front matter, the references, appendices, and the front matter, the work is at 18% similarity index. I don't know what the policy of the university says, but that's where it stands. Would you wish to congratulate yourself, or there is also need to improve further?
Well, that's very ideal, I think.
That's ideal. So, Chair,
18 is...
there is a lot, but I am limited by time, and I have a report that I'll tender into your office after here. Good things must come to an end. I must acknowledge that I've enjoyed interacting with the candidate. Her sobriety, her calmness, her confidence, and more importantly, academic humility are amazing. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Professor.
And I want to believe that your growth, academic and career growth, is going to be unlimited. I want to thank you for this opportunity and pray that we continue to engage in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Tibun. I saw Annie's daughter clapping halfway, like, should I clap? What has she said? But I know she will clap. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Anne, upon getting done with this very important interaction. Would you open that bottle of water and take a sip as we go to the next level? Thank you. When we were continuing, I had earlier mentioned that another panelist was virtual but joining us physically. So we're joined by Dr. Linda Esther Nakalawa. Dr. Nakalawa, you're most welcome. And before you came, someone had critically observed the bench of the panelists and was seeing only males. And I said, oh, no, we are not malealists, but panelists. So thank you for joining us. We were also joined by another colleague, and you have partly been in the same journey, the new Dr. Patrick Mwase. He's as well a member of staff. Dr. Mwase, welcome, and thank you for coming to Grace. And we have our associate staff, Gerard Sereko. Welcome, Gerard. And we have your fellow students here. Perez doctor to be soon. And I know there's a sister there that you are well aware of, and some other colleagues that have come to join us. We want to go to the next step, colleagues, to check our candidate and see how she moves out of here. I would love to give each one of the panelists a maximum of 6 minutes within which to have a point of interaction with the candidate. And after that, we shall announce what follows. I don't know whether the only lady on the panel comes first, or she would pass on the opportunity to any other person. Dr. Nakalawa? Thank you. I know. Farouk, are we safe if the panelists remained where they are? We are informed that you have to come here. Thank you. One of the minutes, we are counting the minutes, really. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean. Congratulations, Anne. This is a really, really amazing study. Congratulations to you and your family that are holding their breath. It is well. I can almost promise you. Anyway, Anne, just to explain a little bit so you understand why I am going to say the things that I am saying, I am a qualitative researcher and very strongly sociocultural. That means I have very little use for figures, dense figures especially, and I have very little use for things that are whose basis, whose background is a heavily Western, conceptualization or theorization. That said, I only have recommendations on one question. One, this career guidance and counseling questionnaire that you developed yourself, I think there is amazing publication potential for that, and I practically beg you to publish something about this in a local journal, because a lot of these journals that we tend to publish in, the people here that are going to need, desperately need, like you mentioned in your conclusion and recommendations, they will never access that information. I don't know if you actually have copies of those publications. Some of these journals, they ask you, you publish, and then you also have to pay to access. So please publish some of this work in a local journal. And then I kept asking myself, who is the end user of your research? Beautiful, beautiful research, at least the text, which I am very passionate about. But who is the end user of this research? If the end user of your research is the learner or the student or the parent or the teacher, then again, what else can you say about the descriptive statistics? Very many times as psychologists, we tend to go into the relationship, significant and what have you, but those basic descriptions of the things, the descriptive statistics, they are the ones that are ultimately going to make sense to one, maybe a policymaker or a headmistress somewhere. So there is a lot of use for that. I'd like to encourage you to write a toned down publication for head teachers, for parents, for learners, maybe something like a bulletin. And I really commend your recognition of Western developed tools as a weakness. And I'm drawing from your conclusion also that schools are really struggling. Yes, we do need to pay attention as a nation, but more importantly, we need to pay attention as psychologists. Can our service users find themselves in our tools, in our questionnaires, in our terminologies, and in the theoretical frameworks that we use? And more importantly, even, can they find a way forward that resonates with their realities in language that they can relate to, in things that they can actually use? That said, congratulations. It is a monumental study.
I appreciate the compliments and the areas pointed out. Indeed, I have these areas toned down. However, the population that provided the qualitative data was not sufficient. So anyhow, I still captured that information, and the publications I've talked about, they really tone down the simple information that you're talking about. When you look at all these, most of the data that is captured is mostly descriptive. So the higher end of relationships are the ones I maintained in the book. Yes. And then about the local journals, as it were, the policy, they will ask you for the high-end journals. So I tried the little much as I could.
You tried. I think we can.
Yeah.
Do you have one more follow-up?
Yeah, I think that's why these journals were able to accept those publications. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And please, and for others that you really think you do not have to reason them out, can you kindly take them as comments? Yes, and you leave it at that. Dr. Wandera, you're welcome here. Maximum of 6 minutes.
Thank you, Richard. I guess, and first of all, Richard, as acting dean, you should correct the doctoral committee. The other doctoral committee you mentioned was very archaic. I'm one of the doctoral committee members. And I read this work very well. Her work plus Dr. Matagi for some time. So you need to correct that record. Now, my counselors, and thank you, first of all, for reaching here, because I was even sharing with Dr. Leon, where is this student? I thought you had even graduated. And really, when I see you here. So I'm very happy for Anne to reach here, first of all. Then mine is, counseling is a very, very serious profession. And for us, we are all teachers. Now, we have this current CBC, this competence-based curriculum. And when some of these things of education come up, people look at us as teachers. And it's worse when you are teaching at the university. And they come to realize that professionally you're a teacher and you're even teaching, psychology. Now, I was looking at this because the career guidance is one of the problems right now. How to change we who are products of knowledge-based what? Curriculum. All of us seated here, I guess we are all products of knowledge what? Based curriculum. How your study is going to help us in this CBC what? CBC curriculum. Because right now, everybody is boiling up. We don't know where to end. But I know guidance and counseling is one of the solutions to the worries of all of us as educationists and even as parents. How is it going to help us? Other things, I guess Prof has talked about them, so I may not need to repeat because it will be a waste of. That's only my very guidance on counseling.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wandera. And may we hear from Dr. Francis Boy. And as you come, panelists, a bit of guidance. You could give comments, but when you have specific questions that you want the candidate responded to, please let us know so that she can do that.
Thank you very much, Dean. Yes, Anne, thank you very much for your presentation, your calmness and confidence in presenting this very interesting work, especially at this current stage where our country is, as the previous person standing here said, guidance and counseling could help us a lot in the transition process from the old curriculum to where we are now. This work is quite interesting, even for me. And from one of your findings, which you really said during the presentation, I realized that one, where you found that girls' transition from school to work is low. That was one of them. The second one, you found that career guidance and counseling in Uganda and in Africa is also low. But the demand is there and it's high. Actually, in what the critical reader pointed out regarding your publication about girls, given the low transition from school to work, that some get involved in sex work, which you are defending and saying possibly it's because of the lack of or the low guidance and counseling that is provided. And I think if we are to look at both of the gender, even the boys are affected similarly if another career study was done, going into other work, which include probably border. I hear now graduates from this university and other universities, that's where they go to. I don't know how their training and their skills they acquire from higher institutions of learning, whether it leads them to that. Then there are these other groups that are sometimes called, is it Kifesi? The guys who are involved in that, I think they also resorting to that as a source of income. The issues of phone hugging during traffic jams and so on. And some of them are so skilled. Some people have testified, your phone is stolen, immediately a few minutes, if it is connected to the bank, money goes. And I think these are educated people. So, given that background, how then would this study be able to help our youth who we are training with parents' money? Some are selling land. Probably we need to look at that. So I'm actually recognizing that this work is very, very important. It's not only affecting the female being, but even the boy child is being affected. So those are my comments on that. But on the academic part, I want to find out. From your study, you said you had a population of 774. And from the Kraje and Morgan table, you chose 260. Correct me if I'm wrong. But from your findings, the actual sample was 161. What happened? Why do you have that small sample? You could explain why it decreases from 260 to 161. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any to pick out and respond to?
I can combine both for Dr. Wandera. I really recognize you, and as a member of my doctoral committee, and Dr. Karugahe and Professor Peter, who are not here. Yeah, so in my recommendations, I said that as we look at the review of the curriculum, which I also read through, the CDC has come up with a kind of a guideline for guidance and counseling. And still, like as I said, it sidelines career guidance. And in the area of counseling, actually career counseling is a distinct discipline. So we really need to get a point as Ugandans to put a demarcation between guidance and counseling is good, but we need to emphasize career guidance in our schools, even us as an institution, as we train teachers, as we train counselors, we really need to bring out that discipline and then give it the support that it takes. Those of you who have children in school, when they call us for career guidance, when you reach there, it is motivational speeches. So partly why I was looking at occupational information that is given to students, it is so critical in that NOIC competencies and indicators, it actually brings a child in touch with themselves and how understanding of self affects their way they perceive their future careers and the decisions they'll make. How they can connect, because by all of us here, we've gone through this system. You finish senior 6 and they ask you what do you want to be. And the child says, the results I'll get will determine where I want to go. So I'm advocating that, which Lydia also asked, this information, it goes back to schools, it goes back to policy makers, even the industry. In the industry, when they are employing, they don't care what you studied. Again, it is technical know-how or how you are connected. So could we give career guidance and counseling the position it needs in our education sector and the employment industry? So I really recognize that we need to do much more in the career development, the CDC review. Even as we think about the higher education review, we need to give career guidance the position it deserves. And then regarding Professor's question about the sample size, using Krejci and Morgan for a sample of 774, which were actually the actual numbers of students in the class at the time I entered schools, I considered a sample size of 260. Knowing that there will be people who will consent and those who will decline. And however, being there were 3 instruments that are used. So you'd find that a student has filled the first 2 and the third one, it is incomplete. So because I needed to run the relationship analysis, I couldn't keep the students who did not complete all the tools. So all those we eliminated during the data cleaning, and that's how I ended with 161 students. They're about 68% of the total, the size sample. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chizito, I think, before we can hear from Dr. Alipanga.
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Anne, for reaching this stage. I just have a few questions, and I want to thank Prof, because most of the issues I wanted to raise were already dealt with. But in when you are justifying the selection of Ankole, you said it was third ranked in recruitment in schools. So I was wondering why you skipped the first, the second, and you went to the third ranked. So food for thought there. Then go to your conceptual framework. There. I was just wondering why there is no arrow between career guidance and counseling and occupational information knowledge. Isn't there any relationship there? Then, yeah, the research design, there was at one point no control group, then control group. So I was wondering, you selected 4 schools. Did you use the 2 schools as your controls, or how did you divide the 2 groups? How did you get the control group versus your study group? And this is just a comment. I think you mention attrition rate, but you do not actually put there the actual figure. Kindly put it there. I think it's 38%. So you need to put it there. Lastly, I think it's your hypothesis 6. And again, it will depend on whether you go back to redo the analysis or use your publication in just a bit. I think yes. You have 4 groups and you're using a t-test. T-test is usually for 2 groups. Maybe you can look into that. I think ANOVA, if you're comparing all the schools at once, I think ANOVA would have been the most appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you. And would you love to respond to some of the questions there?
Thank you. I'll start with this. Actually, for purposes of space, this was actually an F test. However, F did not have the substantial values, so I only picked on the T and the P, but it's an F test in my book. And the sample, the Cohen's D test is different. They are separated in the book. But for purposes of presentation, I just put them together. But as the expert reader, critical reader identified, I will have to look through it again. Regarding why I chose, maybe the 2 groups, I already mentioned that there were 4 schools, so I did random sampling using a golden ball technique where I wrote the names of the schools. So the 2 schools were picked for treatment, and then the other schools were for control. Yeah, and then all the students within that school qualified for treatment for the two schools, and then the control for the other groups. Then regarding Ankole sub-region, I must confess I stay in the West. So going to Busoga and Uganda would, with all the constraints, as we are aware about for students who are self-sponsored, I found it was convenient to do my study in Imbarara, which was close to the place where I live, but I don't work in those schools. So I didn't have any personal interest in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin Alipanga.
Good afternoon, everyone, in your respective capacities. And don't be scared by the big book, it's just a diary. Actually, after the critical reader did his work, actually I had a very long list to talk about, but now it has been shortened. And also the technical issues have, I think, all been raised. But I believe in pragmatic philosophy, which was espoused by John Dewey from the US, which in brief says, the theory that works is the correct one. So, coming to your study, the big thing here that you set out to examine is the career self-concept of the students in the schools you went to. And somewhere you did mention about sustainable development goals. I don't know if you can shed more light on the link between career self-concept and sustainable development goal. I don't know which particular goal you're referring to, but I think it may be goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. Because I'm here thinking, if I have very good career self-concept, how will that link to decent work and also economic growth in my life? 2, also building on the same, from your findings, although we know the findings may be on a shaky ground pending the revision you will do, but from the findings so far that you have presented, what practical steps should be taken to ensure students benefit from career guidance and counseling, and therefore be able to develop good self-concepts? Yep. So some practical steps, because you have done this work, you have presented it, you have understood it well. I'm sure by now you have some, something concrete that you would do, yep, to enhance the career self-concept of the students. Yeah. Lastly, because being the last person, if you talk too much, people get bored. Lastly, you as Anne, and I think in a few minutes from now, we might be calling you Dr. Anne. Is it Dr. Otwine? Anne, yeah. Yeah, so what do you intend to do with all this wealth of knowledge you have generated from this research? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Alipang. And would you pick a few to respond to from those questions?
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the relationship between career self-concept and SDGs, we know that there is a shift. We cannot deny that. The global dynamics have changed, And that's why we are changing the curriculum to catch up. And when you look at what is in schools, even what is being taught to students in relation to career guidance, one of the manuscript I published in 2022 about the efficacy of career guidance in Uganda, it is so painful. When you look at the kind of information students are being given, orientation to the curriculum, how to relate with each other, but there is no mention of where they are and where the globe is going. So, and when we look at rate among the graduates, and yet the universities we are graduating students. And then you know that these students at the end of the reading their name, they are going to languish in the streets. And that's where the critical reader brought in the study. It's not only sex work, many things that students are doing after graduation. So we are saying that if we coined and then packaged career guidance and counseling in schools very well, so that by senior 6 students have a very good self-concept of who they want to be, what they want to do, and how it fits in the global changes. We have the technological changes, then we'll be able to position our students well and minimize the challenges that we are encountering as a country. And sometimes when I look at, of course the government is doing its best, skilling the youth, but again after being given the money, the pigs, the whatever, they sell and they go back. So I think the whole idea is, can we drum up for career guidance and counseling to the responsible people? These are teachers, even us as parents. Because as parents, we find ourselves telling children, you must be this, even when you know that their ability is not. So they do the papers, they give you the papers, they go to drive, to ride the border. So I feel the whole idea is, as I mentioned, all the stakeholders in education, they really need this information. I thank you.
Well, thank you. That's another round. Thank you so much, dear panelists. And I add my voice to the panelists' appreciation of the critical reader, Professor Atibuni. We also have online audience applauding you for this engagement. You seem like you have something that you want to put across, Prof. Yes, sure.
Thank you, Chair. Anne, in so many places in the book, you do say non-significant. The results are non-significant. And please note that non-significant is not the same as not significant. And not significant is not the same as not statistically significant. Because it may be practically significant, but statistically not significant. So take note of that. Then 2, you have kept saying golden bowel. It should be goldfish bowel method. Right, thank you. But statistically significant, statistically not significant is different from non-significant. So please be careful what you say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Atibun. And don't forget, I am the lead panelist. So you want to go without a question from me. Anyway, I will not ask. I will only pick from what you said. When one of the panelists asked you about the relevance of the voices that relate to explaining the numbers and the indices, you mentioned that the qualitative results were not sufficient enough to deserve being used in your presentation here. Did you say that by accident or it's real?
They cautioned me against lying. Yeah, but the results are there. I'd kind of put them aside. Yeah, but the voices, of course, need to be heard, and yeah, having to consider capturing a few voices, not a few, but bringing them back is also very critical. I appreciate that.
Thank you. You're appreciating simply because you're here, but there is no any point during your design in your book that prepared us that you would actually use qualitative results. And
No.
that the critical reader can even agree with.
It wasn't there. It
So
wasn't there. So that's
maybe,
why I
maybe
kept
the
it
honest
out.
one would have been, no, I didn't design my study to do that. But you tried to be good. Okay. Thank you. The online audience, you have really been good, and you have had a maximum of about 128 attendees. And these also include Dr. Lois Kobsinje, who is the head of department, educational, social, and organizational psychology, that has kept with us online. And when you were presenting before the critical reader came, one online audience member of the public, Dr. Kamis Musanje, asked post-test with no pre-test scores, how did you tell the difference? Also, how did you balance baseline covariant to be sure that no other factors are explaining the results? Finally, why would you randomize in a quasi-experiment? Thank you. I think even partly the critical reader brought out this issue, but I only wanted to let you know that people were following up during the time you were presenting. Another comment online: does some hypothesis testing have treatment and control digressing from study design? These are some of, I'm reading them so that we recognize the online participation, but many of them have been brought out really so well during the time you were interacting with the critical reader and the panel. And another one, hey, the others, this one, okay, these were comments coming up. Someone commented about contamination. That's a statistical term that you should go in the background with maybe your supervisors to find out what they were meaning. Then there is an online comment that the opponent is too tough for the candidate. Mr. Wycliffe Taliahabwe, I also want to assure you that the candidate was prepared for the tough opponent. So I think the room was tough. Thank you so much for observation. This is really nice. May I invite submission from, yes. You can come here and ask your question very, very fast. Thank you. You tell your name and maybe your discipline. You come here. Come. You can come here. That one, let us reserve that for her. We reserve that for her. She has her own camera as the dancer.
Okay, good afternoon to you all. Thank you so much. I'm Naomi Namanya from Religion and Peace Studies, and I'm quite passionate about guiding students or children or learners on discovering on what they are. So I thank you so much, and I congratulate you, Anne, for this far. But from the discussion, I discovered that, you know, the parents are somehow in a back seat. And yet, as you switched me on, you know, they usually do courses, and the parents, in a way, they are like, you know, you have to do this course, and the students are not in that line, or you don't have ability. And along the way, they do the bachelor's, for instance, if you can take up the bachelor's stage, and after that, they bring it and throw it back to the parents, and they're like, you know, this is not my course. So if you would also think of bringing out the parental role in career guidance, that would be very perfect. Thank you.
Any other member of the public? We may get two more and we close it at that in case they are there. Farouk, are you able to trace for more comments and maybe flash them here if we can read them? Yes, Mr. Dr. Mwase.
Thank you, Anne, for this long journey that you've come to. Mine is about the career models. Yes, as I was following your presentation, you did select, SUPER's model. Just as a comment, I would encourage that, you would actually give us the strength that actually made you specifically go for super, because I know it is one of the key career models besides the others that are there, despite its weaknesses, and that will actually make your work much better. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I do not see any more hands. And can we clap for the members of the public? Thank you. Can we clap for the panelists? Thank you. And together, can we clap for our critical discussant? Professor, thank you. May we clap for Anne for coming to this. With that clap, I know you are not believing, but then we shall base on that same point to allow you go and get some fresh air. Traditionally, we should have been the few of us to move out, but again, it also gives you some space to go and relax a bit. May I request the members of the public to give us a few minutes and don't go far, just like Shaksali would say, we are inviting you back so that we get what is coming out of the smoke that will come out of here. Farouk, you will make sure you keep the members online, keep live, but maybe for a moment out of the audio room of us for a few minutes. Members online, please, you can hold on as the panelists deliberate on this interaction. Thank you so much once again for keeping with us. We shall give you like 1 minute, members who are not part of the panel and secretariat, to briefly exit. Even if you leave your property, you're coming back just after a few minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe a distance, but we'll take note. You're most welcome, members on our virtual platform. I know this event has been broadcast on YouTube, and we still have friends that are waiting to hear from what comes out of this very important room. Miss Anne Otwine, the committee that has undertaken the examination of your oral defense have found your work and thesis worth the award of a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations. Now we want you to take note of the following. Despite the award that has been recommended, the committee recommends that, among others, observe the following. Could you look at a compilation of your thesis by publication format? The committee acknowledges that you have moved a journey simultaneously, that by now you have over 3 papers published and related and from your work. Number 2, you need to look at critically and deliberately a review of the theory, and this one came up during the time you interacted with this critical reader. So you need to have a proper theoretical perspective and a proper theoretical framework, which are missing in your thesis. And this theory, especially that you come up with and position, should be reflected in the work, right from the design, that is methodology. The analysis framework should be anchored on that. The presentation and interpretation of results, and then the discussion of results. Number 3, there should be better scientific justification of the choice of methods. So the entire methods section of your work should have a scientific anchoring. So when someone asks you why Ankole, and then you say, because I come from there, that itself leaves you short of the philosophy that we are looking for from you. Everything you do must have a scientific choice, and verifiable. The other word for scientific is verifiable. And then, not finally, number 4, we shall refer you to the detailed comments made by the Secretariat that will be given to you. Now, the procedure by Makerere University's Directorate of Research and Graduate Training prefer that you take a maximum of 3 months to address these comments, but you may even take a day or an hour if you are superhuman, and we shall be glad to receive your final thesis that the rest of history will read. To this effect, the committee has appointed Dr. Simon Kizito, you to work with Dr. Simon Kizito as the overseer to see you work upon this, and definitely your supervisor or supervisors are the bona fide parents and guides all through. We would like once again to congratulate you, and from the panelists, it came up that it is important that you come up with a brief that can be easily palatable to the end users. Some of them may not have the capacity to read these technical papers, and the thesis that you came up with. So may you consider coming up with such a brief so that even the your research site and in ETC can benefit from this wonderful study. Congratulations. May I now invite you, in case you have anything to say to whoever you can say to it, before we can declare this gathering officially ended. Thank you.
Dear Chairman, Dr. Richard, my critical reviewer, the panelists, special attention, special observation, and thanks to my supervisor, Dr. Matagi, selflessly carried me through this journey. I really honor you. My doctoral committee, Dr. Wandera and team, you have always been there for me. Thank you so much. The panelists, thank you for your constructive feedback, which I am very ready to work at. Dear Joyce, those of you who don't know Joyce, Joyce is seated behind there. God has given her an Joyce. There are two Joyces now. I didn't take note of that. Joyce, let me start with Joyce, the administrator at Temere. Her smile has been my therapy through this journey. She's been there for me. I would like to again take you back to my family members. I know at the beginning I was really not very fine. You're under pressure. They have been there with me. I told them the only exam which you do when you attend, which is attended by thousands, and your family to see you fail or win. They took that risk, led by my dear husband, Reverend Milton Tuheyo. Thank you. Thank you for shouldering the burden of seeing your wife through school. Auntie Joyce, she's my mother. She's standing in for my mother. Although my mother is actually online, she is online. I really want to appreciate her and the rest of the family. It has been a journey of prayer. My workmates, my friends, my relatives, my colleagues, everyone. And while we introduced one of my daughters, the youngest daughter also came in. Esther, she came in. Could you please wave to the people? Esther is in her 4th year doing law at Uganda Christian University. I hope I didn't push her into that line. Anne has completed her Bachelor of Human Nutrition and Dietetics here. We hope to do a joint party, but she's also part of the journey. She would bring for me food when I'm reading and typing here. So, and then my dear brother, Arthur, please. Those of you who have read my work, when you give comments on my soft copy, there is always Arthur Areneitwe. Now, along the way at the peak of my journey, my computer was stolen and my phone crashed and I was at point 0. So he volunteered his computer and it's the one which has led me to this and his family. Yeah, so everyone who has been part of the journey. Dear Farouk, thank you this morning. He did something which was extraordinary. I didn't expect. I had prepared my slides and I knew they were very good. Only when he put them on his piece, they were all jumbled up. And I don't say I almost collapsed, but he assured me he was going to work on it, and it worked out well. Thank you. Thank you. And by God's grace, I accept the verdict. I am so humbled. It's the first time to sit with the professors of all levels, your caliber. I'm so humbled. And from the podium, I know now I can sit on the table and then do her job. Thank you so much. My dear Sister Linda, I know we almost started at the same time. You are always ahead of me, but thank you for standing here with me. I wish to recognize some members from Uganda Counselling Association, although they are also scholars. My critical reader, I thank you for joining me from that side. And Sister Confidence, yeah. So I'm a member of Uganda Counselling Association and very active. Yes, that's why I had this passion for career counseling. I rest my case and I thank you for making me and believing in me. Thank you.
Thank you. And may I think, Farouk, with your assistance, there will be some Kodaka moments. He's coming to organize our placards here. And then the families enjoy with the professors that will hear. But as you come to do that, I officially declare this gathering closed. Thank you so much all for turning up. Please don't go away before you take the Kodak moments with, but Joy, Registrar Farouk, we appreciate. Thank